James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting November the 4th, 2019. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's video reading. This week I'm honoring the request from one of my viewers. Her name is Carmela. So Carmela, if you're watching this video, this one is for you. Carmela reached out to me through a comment on one of my previous videos, and this was interesting. She watched a video that was from 2015, and in that video, or at that time when I was making my weekly card reading videos, I was doing a thing called the Lenormand and Tarot Tag Team. So what it was I would do the weekly reading in two parts. The first part I would use Lenormand, and in the second part I would use Tarot. And so Carmela, like I said, watched this video from 2015 and asked me if I would be willing to do more of those. So I'm always one for taking a request into consideration, and the fact that she went so back in time to watch that video just meant the world to me. So again, we are going to be working with Lenormand and Tarot for this week's Oracle Outlook. And I'm going to be doing it in parts like I did way back then. So this video installment is going to be part one, and we're going to be looking at the Lenormand. So the Lenormand deck that I'm going to be using, and there's a method to my madness, and you'll see when we get to the next segment, is I'm working with the New York Lenormand by Robert M. Place. And I will be leaving information about the New York Lenormand in the description box below. So now that I've set things up, let's get to the table and take a look at what the Lenormand has to say about the week ahead. And here we are with the cards on the table, and I'm going to take a few moments to shuffle the deck. And as I shuffle, I'm focusing on my usual intention for these weekly general readings. Focusing on the information, the insight, the guidance and advice that is going to be most helpful and beneficial as we move through the upcoming week. Alright, so I'm going to stop there. It's usually a sign that I need to stop. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. Put it back together. I'm going to fan the cards out. Now in the past, when I did these Lenormand and Tarot Tag Team readings, I focused on 3 cards, but since time has gone by, I now like working with a line of 5, so I'm going to be looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. And these will be the cards that make up this week's reading. So I have the cards. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up, and we'll put that to one side. So now I'm going to take a moment to count the cards back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's just so I know that I have 5 cards. So now I'm going to go ahead and lay them out. And for me, when I'm working with a line of 5, I just literally lay out the cards from left to right in the order that I picked them. Just going to take a moment now to straighten the cards out. All right. All right. And so the way I work with a line of 5, I typically start with the middle card. For me, the middle card represents the central issue or the focus for the week ahead. So taking a look at that card, we have the cross card. And so now I've given something away. So now you can clearly see why I am doing a Lenormand and Tarot Tag Team this week, because this particular deck has tarot card inserts rather than playing card inserts. So going with that, we have cross. Cross is the focus. So cross can mean a couple of things. So in one regard, This suggests that there's going to be a focus on some kind of difficulty or a burden, because that's my chief meaning for cross. Cross represents burdens and difficulties, right? And so there may be some sort of crisis or ordeal that we need to focus on or give some attention to this week, because crisis and ordeal, along with burdens and difficulties, are my other keywords for this card. In a more positive respect, this card can represent religion and spirituality. So for some of us, there may be a focus on our spiritual path or a religious tradition, something having to do with our spirituality, or that if we go back to the idea of about a difficulty or a burden or some sort of crisis or ordeal, this card would suggest that we may need to rely on our faith. For me, as advice, I always say this card says keep the faith, right? So it may be a matter of holding on to our faith or applying our faith or keeping the faith in regard to the situation, right? So again, for me, cross can represent a difficulty or a burden. It could represent a crisis or an ordeal, or it could represent something having to do with our religion or our spiritual path or spirituality, right? So now the surrounding cards will give us more about cross. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the card back down. And now let's take a look at the cards that are surrounding, immediately flanking the cross card. And on the left we have mice. So here we have a card that can represent stress and worry. So if we go back to the idea that cross is talking about a difficulty or a burden, and here we have, if we pair the cards, we have stress and worry, mice, about a difficulty or a burden, cross. Right, now another aspect, if we go with the idea that we're centering on our religion or our spirituality, then mice might suggest some kind of loss with that, right? So here we have a loss of faith. I'm hearing the song Losing My Religion, right? So there may be something happening where there's a shift or a change with one's religious path or spiritual path. So two possibilities again. We have stress and worry about a burden or a difficulty. Or that if a person is prone to stress, mice, then it could be that the stress is becoming critical. That would be cross, right? It's becoming an ordeal. Right, so again we have stress and worry about a difficulty or a burden, or that there's a loss of faith, or a gradual decline in religion or religious belief. So now let's set this card down and take a look at the card on the opposite side of cross. And here we have, here we have a significator. So here we have the gentleman. So the gentleman always talks about a man. So if you're a woman watching this video, this could be a man who is significant to you or plays a significant role in the situation, right? And I'm playing on the word significator, right? If you're a man, then the gentleman card would represent you. So if we lay the card down, because the gentleman card has no other meaning other than the fact that it represents a man. And we get more meaning about this card when we pair it with other cards. So what immediately comes to me is that here we have a scenario with cross and gentleman. Here we have a difficulty with a man, and this would be, if this resonates with a woman, it would be a difficulty with a man. Or it could be that the man is religious or spiritual, or that the man is dealing with a difficulty. Right here we have an ordeal or a crisis for the man. And here we have with direction, even though I'm going to hold the card up, there's no clear direction made with this gentleman card because he's facing us, right? So the way I would read a card like this, because everyone knows that I read with direction in mind, and I usually look to see which way the person is facing. In this particular case, we would go with the idea that the left is the past and the right is the future, right? So this could be a situation that the person has been dealing with, right? It's part of his past, right? It could be his recent past, right? Because it's the card that's closest to him, but it would still be part of the past. So there's a couple of ways of looking at this. If we allow cross to be a descriptor of the person, then this could be a spiritual person, a religious person, or even a difficult person, right? Or that we could say that there is going to be a situation. If it's situational, then this would be a burden or a difficulty either with a man or for the man. And we could do the same mirroring mice. Here we have stress and worry, either with a man, regarding a man, or for the man himself. Right? So the way we could read the three cards would be stress and worry about a difficulty, either with or for a man. Now we could go with also the gradual decline or the loss, mice, of faith, or the gradual decline in religion for the man. Right? So with that in mind, there could be a man who's having difficulty regarding religion and spirituality. There's been some sort of erosion or decline. And again, this would be in his past because the cards are before him. Right? And as a result of that, he may be doing some examination regarding his spiritual path or his religious path. So those are some ways that I would look at these cards. So now let's take a look at the outer cards. Starting with the card on the far left, here we have the moon card. So the moon for me can represent career. Other things it could represent, if it's not career, then it could be about something having to do with recognition. The moon carries with it a sense of fame or celebrities. And that could be a literal celebrity or celebrity-like status, right? So we have career, we have recognition. We also have one's reputation. Right? And that could be one's standing. And that could be either public standing, how one is seen in the public, again, with the recognition aspect. And then in the literal sense, this could be something having to do with night or nighttime, because the moon comes, or the moon is more visible, I should say, excuse me, at night. So here we lay the card down, and we immediately pair it with mice. Here we have, a reputation that is gradually declining or dwindling, because mice represents loss, but it's a gradual loss, right? It's not immediate or it's not swift, right? It usually represents over time, right? Could be one's career. There's a change in career here. We have career that is gradually declining. If we take a look at the moon and the cross, here we have a career that may be a spiritual career or a career in religion. And then here we have the gradual decline, right? There's something shifting with that. Right? And if whatever this loss is, it may be difficult for the man. Right? These two cards, if this is about career and vocation, then somebody may be struggling with what they believe their spiritual purpose is. Right? If we go with this idea about maybe not career but vocation, and this could be about one's life purpose, then there may be something there may be some difficulty with that. And it may involve a man. But if that is, there may be some difficulty for the man if that sense of purpose and meaning is dwindling or being diminished. And as a result of that, and here we have maybe a lessening or a sense of being diminished for the man. Like he may be feeling, like he was really identifying with this vocation, and this change is making him feel less than, or maybe believe that he's less than, right? So those are some possibilities with the first 4 cards. So now let's take a look at the final card. And here we have the Scythe card, right, at the end. So Scythe can represent, something that is sudden, something that is abrupt, something that is unexpected. The chief meaning could be something being cut, or something being split or separated, or a sense of division, right? Because the scythe is a handheld tool that cuts things, right? So I tend to think of like a break, a cut, a disconnection, that kind of thing. So here we have the possibility here, and I read with direction in mind with the scythe card. So the scythe is cutting into the man. So this could be something of an injury, and that could be either in the literal sense or metaphorical. In the metaphorical, this would be about some kind of pain, some kind of woundedness, right? If we go with the idea that this is a burden or difficulty, then it could even be like the crisis. If we go with the idea, because this is what's coming to me in the moment, I talked about stress, right? And that stress becomes critical. What's making me think is that there may be some stress or worry about an ordeal, and it may have to do with one's physical well-being, because this card can represent surgery. So if the man is facing surgery, it could be a possibility of a difficult procedure, because this could be difficulty with surgery. There may be some stress and worry around that. Or that if the stress and dealing with stress has become critical, has become an ordeal, right? I'm thinking of like conditions that are stress related or have stress related complications attached to them, right? Then this could be about what could he do to cut out or eliminate the stress. Now, another thing is that the man could be facing some kind of split or separation, and that would imply divorce. That may be difficult or an ordeal, right? So the 3 cards here could be difficulty for the man facing a split, a separation, or even a divorce, right? And if we pair the cards, here we have Scythe. This could be something sudden, unexpected, right? So this could be a difficulty or a crisis or an ordeal that the man faces unexpectedly. It was sudden. Here we have a sudden difficulty, a sudden crisis that the man has found himself in the middle of, right? Now, if this scenario involves a woman, then here we have, maybe difficulty with the man regarding a split separation, like maybe the woman wants to call it a day, but there may be difficulty around that, like difficulty breaking away from the man, like he may want to fight that or make it difficult for the woman involved. So those are some possibilities for the cards this week, and on that note, I will go ahead and round out part 1 of the Lenormand and Tarot Tag Team. This has been James Himm Mitchell, and I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this installment of our 2-part reading, and I hope that you stick with me and join me for part 2, where we take a closer look at the tarot card inserts. So until then, take care.